made a Sprite. We have it in Piskel. Um, one quick note, it's worth making sure in Piskel app that you don't have any blank squares. So I think Piskel defaults to having like 2 by 2 columns by rows, in which case, that would be like 4 by 4. So if you happen to have only 7 frames in your Sprite, then you'd have an odd one. So I recommend just going down to 1 column before you go to the export. So 1 by 4 is fine, or 1 by 28, or however many you've got. We open that URI, we get this magic thing, and we're going to copy it. I copied that with Control C. All right, now if I come back to my library here, I've got this code pen with a sample sprite, which is all set up to make this easier. If you want to start from scratch, you can use the fuller video that I have. But in this one, what I've done is in the HTML, I've got in my demo, I've got that blue dude that I made. You can now make your own, and you can call it whatever you want. So I'll call mine, turtle image, and then I'll paste that in. And you could delete the blue dude if you don't. If you want to keep my blue dude, you can keep him, but there's no need to. Oh, I also have started. I've got a couple demos in there. It doesn't do any harm if you want to leave them, but you can delete them. Simplify your code. Now, the reason I put that in this other script here is just so that you don't have to look at that giant bunch of mess in the middle of your code. So turtle image is what I called it. Whatever I say var, so var in the name, that's getting set to all this data. Then if I come here, the blue dude went away because I broke him. Now I'll call this turtle image. And at this point, the turtle should show up. Now he's a little flashy, so we have to understand a little more about my demo to see why that is. The frame width was set to 32 and 32, which happened to be the frame width of my turtle. If it looked boxy, it would mean that I had the width of it wrong. So this frame width and frame height have to match whatever Piskel tells you the resolution is of the frame width and frame height there. The X and Y is where he goes on the screen. And then the frame sequence I had in my demo, and you probably don't need that. So if you just comment that out, now the turtle will play at whatever speed, or it'll play all the frames that you have. Frame sequence is a little more advanced if you had a player who could, let's say, get out a lasso at one point, or had different images that you built. The frame sequence would let you say, like, now play frames 7, 8, 9, but in a different part only play these ones. One other thing you might want to control, you'll notice my turtle looks a little manic, and of course it's the nature of turtles to be slow. Just like frame width and frame height, there is a parameter called frame rate you can give to the sprite, which will choose how many frames it plays a second. So now it'll go through 5 frames a second. If I set that to 1, it would take 1 second before each frame. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. That's a really slow turtle. So depending on your animation, it might look better or worse with different frame rates. Obviously, if you got obsessed about the drawing, you could draw an animation that was meant to look really smooth at 60 frames a second or something, and it'll do its best. All right, so there we go. I like this guy at 8. So once you've done this, you're pretty much complete. The only other problem here is this demo just has an example of game add drawing with a line. So unless you want some lines in your game, you could just get rid of that. Now there's no line. You could go ahead and name your game, because now you've sort of set up with the game. I'll call mine Turtle Game. Click Save, so that it's all the way saved. Make sure it still works. And while we're here, you might want to play with some of the other features of this. Like if you change X or Y, you can move where the turtle goes on the screen. I just moved them over to 200. One other handy thing you might care about, in addition to the original width, there's a target width. So let's say that I wanted to make this turtle smaller. I could say, make him 16 by 16. And now he's a smaller circle. And later on, we could talk about how you could do things like make the turtle grow. But you could change this to anything. You can also distort them if you want the target width to be different than the target height. Now I got a fat turtle, and now I have a skinny turtle. All right, there you go.